Hello, everyone. It is Saturday, May 6th, 2023. And I just spent the last 2 hours plus recording a pretty big patch that I did where I combined the big modular and sequencers with the Moog Mother 32 over here, which is relatively new. I haven't had a chance to play with it until recently. And earlier this week, I started messing around learning sequencing and learning how to automate some of the stuff with patching. And today it just happened to be playing something that I really liked, so I got inspired to add more to it, which is how things usually work. What this video are my patch notes. I call it my visual patch notes because I kind of liked what I just did and I don't really want to forget about it. So I'm going to record this video, whether I post it or not, I'm not sure. But I'm going to record this video so I remember what the hell did I do? And let me tell you why, because this isn't just your normal patch where I plug everything in and it just works. This is, again, me doing some pretty deep learning about things that I've never tried before, using voices in different ways that I've never done before, using some of the newer modules that I haven't even done episodes yet for, because I just haven't had time. Life has been pretty busy, and I don't mean in the fun way. With that, I guess we'll start at the beginning. And the beginning starts with Mother over here and how this whole thing even started. So let's go over here to the Mother and I'll talk about that real quick. This whole thing started a couple of months ago when I picked up the Moog Sound Studio, all three units here, the Mother, the Subharmonicon, and the DFAM, which is up here. And they kind of sat in a box and I hadn't really had time to play with them because I'd just been so busy. I finally said, you know what? I bought these guys. I need to do something with them. I racked them up here and I started playing with the Mother. And believe me, learning this sequencer is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I don't know why it's so impossible for me to hold down 15 buttons to make a note, but I don't know. It's been difficult, but it sounds absolutely beautiful. So I'm not bitching about the quality of it. I'm struggling. I'm on the struggle bus. Well, I finally got a little 8-step sequence going in here, thanks to the manual and thanks to a couple of YouTubers who are great at doing tutorials on this stuff. So I finally got all that worked out, and it sounds something like this, which is going to sound terrible to begin with because it's just the Mother, a single mono voice, and it's heavily filtered. I'll talk about this in a moment. So this is all Mother's been doing for days now. So again, it's a little 8-step sequence. It's going in a random order. I think I just threw in a couple of notes in A minor because of what I'm going to do over here. And what this patch is over here, I want to talk about this patch because this is pretty important stuff here. There's a couple of guys out on the interwebs, out on the tubes, that have done some, I don't even want to swear, but amazing things with just this one single unit, let alone all three of them. Some pretty amazing things like Klaus Garn and Silix Music and AB85, and that's just to name a couple. That I will listen to literally in a playlist all day because it's absolutely beautiful music. So what you see here is Klaus Garn's Orion patch. So go to his channel, find Orion. He has patch notes and something on Modular Grid showing how to set things up. So I was kind of trying to follow that, and then once, of course, I got it making sounds, I finally got my own Mother to make sounds. Then I started tweaking things to my own liking. And that's what you hear here, which is not very beautiful until I come over here to the DAW and start turning on the Valhalla Shimmer reverb. Now, the only difference between what Klaus recommended to do and what I did is I did take a copy of the LFO Tri and send it down here into tempo because I kind of wanted mine to run slower. This only goes so slow. I haven't found a way to do dividing and all that. I don't even know if that's possible. But that is kind of what started all this. So to give you an idea of how my days go, I set something up like this, and then I wander off to the kitchen, cook, clean, go out in the backyard, clean up the yard, and it's blasting out my patio doors. And I absolutely love the sound of this, and it's one voice with reverb. That's it. It sounds so simple. So anyway, to try to sum up this story, what wound up happening today is that is exactly what was going on. Mother was playing. She was squawking out the back door while I was outside doing stuff. And in my brain, I just kind of started hearing other things. That's how things happen. So by the time I was done with my yard work, I came back in and I sat over here with the bigger modular, because that's another thing I haven't really done before, is integrating multiple things with modular itself. I'm so far behind the curve on how to do the cool things to do with modular. So let's move back over to the rack and continue this conversation about the rest of the patch. The next thing that I did was I sat down here at the modular and I started thinking about, okay, what else can I do? And sadly, I always start with the same thing. As soon as I have any kind of a voice doing something, the first thing I do is throw a sub down on it. And I don't know why. I'm just a robot that way. So let me introduce you to my sub voice, which is my first voice. And I mean a real sub. This one's a tummy rumbler. I guess one of the first things I have not done in the past is using chainsaws, because chainsaw is a beautiful Juno-like sound, so I tend to use it for triads and soaring chords and pads and things like that all the time. I never break out of that mold, so today I decided, screw it, I'm going to make chainsaw my sub. So I threw it all the way over here on square, stuck it into Belgrad, because that is a thing I do all the time. I think my low ends sound their best in Belgrad. It's such a beautiful filter. Oh my God, I love this filter. And this is just a sub, so there's no stereo, there's no effects. I have no gates, no envelopes, no nothing. It's just a sub. It's just running super low and rumbly. The next thing up was, oh yeah, that's what I did. While these two were kind of playing noises together, I suddenly realized I needed to upgrade. ADHD. This is what happens with me, is I sit down and go, oh, my performer, my Westlick is out of, it's got a newer firmware. I should apply that. While I'm at it, I might as well get the newer firmware for NerdSEQ. And it just spun away like that, and I started upgrading firmware to everything. So this is how my days wind up not getting anything done, is because I can't stay focused on anything. But the good news about the NerdSEQ firmware upgrade was that it made me actually come in here and take a look at the things that are in my project list. And I found one in here called Synth Edge, and I didn't remember what that was until I loaded it. Even just looking at the notes here, I was able to tell this is, let me see how I can explain this. It is a 32-step pattern from my Roland System 8 keyboard. Beautiful, percussive, plucky sound, and I use it on everything. I absolutely love it. And so at one point, probably over a year ago, I must have programmed it into NerdSEQ as far as the steps go and the notes. I must have programmed it in here because I wanted to stop dragging out the System 8, and I love that sequence. So I put it in NerdSEQ and then forgot about it until today. And so I saw it and I heard it, and it happened to be playing in the same key as the mother. The mother was doing its thing. Now we have the mother, now we have a sub, now we have our plucky sound, which, by the way, of course, is rings, because rings, I use rings for all things pluck, go through rings. So to hear what that kind of sounds like, I guess I'll just play it. And you've probably heard this melody or this rhythm on some of my other videos, because I used it back in my modular journey episodes to demonstrate a ton of modules that made noise. So the interesting setup on this, though, I have an LFO coming out of Modbox, or two of them actually coming out of Modbox for brightness and dampening, because I want them to sweep. I want them to get brighter and get duller as time goes on, like that. And then I have another LFO coming out of Stages over here. It's kind of running a little bit, moderately fast. That is sweeping the position of rings, so we get a kind of a chorus, a little bit of a chorus effect. That in itself doesn't sound too impressive because it's monophonic. But where it goes from here, I have it going through veils, as I've said in numerous other videos. Rings is pretty hot, so I do attenuate the volume through the VCA. It comes out here and goes up to Pico DSP, which is doing a kind of digital delay thing. So again, the sound doesn't sound too great until we throw some delay on it. So now if we throw our sub, and if I throw a little mother, you can kind of see where things are starting to develop. Anyway, so that is mother, voice 1, sub, voice 2, rings, voice 3. Let's talk about voice 4. Which one's that going to be? Let's go back to chainsaw real quick. So here's another thing I've not really done with chainsaw before, and that was make it a single voice, because again, I usually use it for triads and beautiful soaring pads. But this one I wanted to just do some plucky, percussive arpeggios out of Sinfonion here. So I took out of the Sinfonion Arp, I brought it up here to chainsaw, and out of chainsaw to this filter, which I don't really do a whole lot with. I kind of left it wide open. I meant to go back and mess with it later, but it just sounded so cool I left it, so I really didn't need the filter. Out of the filter, which is Zagreb, out of the filter over here to Talon, and Talon out to, here's where things got crazy, out to Databender. Databender into FX Aid, and FX Aid into my mix. So this is a pretty busy single monophonic sound here. But there's more. Wait, there's more. And this is why I'm doing this video, because I'm going to completely forget this. So you see these two little green wires coming into Talon? Well, these are the envelopes coming out of Ornament and Crime up here. Ornament and Crime is set to peaked mode, and it has some pretty sharp, relatively quick attack and a little bit of a slopey delay for both A and B, and they're kind of controlling the pluck of this chainsaw voice. So let's roll that back a little bit. Well, I got to stand up. It's too far away from my short, stubby little arms, can't reach. So let me talk about the probability circuit here real quick. This is a thing I do in almost all of my patches, so this is really nothing new. I won't forget this. I take a clock in to the gate side of random trigger gate, which is our Lattic R112. It's into the gate side, and then down here on the gates, I take just one gate out to the dual probability skipper, which is also a Lattic module, S090. And then I take the two envelope triggers out to the envelope. And then I set the probability down pretty low, maybe around 25%. So what that does is here's a clock pulse coming in, and that clock pulse is going pulse, 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 and then every time it pulses, there might be a chance that this gate's going to open down here, and if this gate opens, it might open a gate here, and if it opens a gate here, it might 25% of the 25% chance it might open the gate to the rest of the circuit. So this is probably one of my favorite things of modular, because I don't know that I have things like this on my normal synthesizers. Maybe I do. But this kind of logic, this kind of random is beautiful. I absolutely love this. So once again, just for the sake of argument, let me, hold on. Gotta get this out of the way. So once again, my clock pulse goes into random trigger gate, which goes into dual probability skipper, which comes out probabilistically to trigger my envelopes, which then open my VCA. Now, the reason I did it this way is also important because these are not going to trigger these. So it's a dual probability skipper means there's two of them in there. So that means it's going to trigger differently. There's a pretty low chance that they're going to trigger at the exact same time. So what winds up happening then is this means the left side of this chainsaw you'll hear sometimes, and the right side you'll hear sometimes, and both sides you'll hear sometimes. I have never done that before. So that is the reason why this is such an exhaustive thing to explain, is because I want to remember that I actually did this finally. I've been thinking about it, and it sounds pretty cool. You'll see, especially since there's also a left and a right going down through Data Bender. And if you know what Data Bender does, you can imagine what left and right differences are. I get so excited I'm exhausted. I need to go take a nap. I'm going backwards a little bit. I usually don't start at the effects and work my way back, but I did want to get through this voice anyway. So that's what the chainsaw voice is, voice number 4. Back up here is how it's, all of this circuitry up here is just to get this chainsaw to open and close. That's all it is. And then this is the feed into the mult from the clock, and the clock is coming down here from NerdSEQ, because NerdSEQ is the boss. This is the clock source down here. Everybody's controlled from his clock down here. And how I do that is under here, under the project settings. If you scroll down to where it says clock out, I have it set to mod 1/16. If I set it to DIN sync 24, it's actually too fast. Because remember, I'm trying to randomly generate triggers here, and if I'm spitting 24 of them per second in here, it's likely going to always be open. So anyway, mod 1/16 is how I chose that there. And the only other thing I've got coming out of this mult is the final feed back down to Pamela's new workout down here in the sequencer rack, because I want Pamela's to be the same clock as NerdSEQ, because I'm going to use Pamela's channel 8 here for my Sinfonion Arp clock, and then I'm going to use Pamela's channel 1, which I usually do, for pushing the patterns along. Let's talk about Sinfonion now. So I've already talked about how I'm going to use channel 1 of Pamela's to push the patterns along, and I have 4 patterns in here. So as far as my patterns go, keep in mind I'm in A minor. So I have an A minor key. I don't even know what these are called. I don't even know why I would even bother trying to pronounce these. In Sinfonion speak, I don't even know what that means. but go back and watch the video. I have a close-up of this as it's changing, and you might be able to hear the key changes. But they sound something like this, in fact. Don't ask me what that is, but it seems to work. And again, I am using a triad, but this time I'm using the quad VCO up there, which is another thing I don't normally do. I don't usually use this guy for chords. I usually use this for big fat basses. So normally that's my bass coming into Belgrad, or plates is my bass going into Belgrad. Or lately, the mini mod VCOs go into Belgrad, or even the ladder filter. I think they sound better in Belgrad, personally. I really love Belgrad. But so this time around, I decided to make a chord out of the quad VCO, and it did a pretty good job. Sounds a little thin, but that's okay. So that's, what's that, voice number 5? And that's it. I have the Arpeggiator coming out of here. I have the chords coming out of here, and that's it for Sinfonion. It's being pushed along by Pamela's, which is getting a clock from NerdSEQ, and that's kind of all how that works. I have one more sub. The final channel, I have, because this is a quad VCO, so I have 3 of them going into the chords, and then the 4th one I have doing an octave higher bass. So it's just kind of helping the sub. So it kind of rides like that. And this guy apparently also has no effect because it's just a bass. So between the two of those, I got some low end. I got a big bottom. I guess I forgot to show the... I forgot to talk about the effects here. Okay, so the chord effect is just 2 HP. 2 HP verb. So it's not much. It's not doing a whole lot. So it's just meant to be in the background, pretty subtly in the background. Kind of like that. To work, I just have to click turn on Pamela's. I completely forgot to talk about or to demonstrate what the sound of this is here. So hold on a moment while we turn down some effects. Yeah, let me see if I can. I have to turn this on. So you see the Sinfonion Arpeggiator is running. We are not getting any triggers up there yet because we haven't turned on NerdSEQ. So I'll make sure everybody else is off. I'm going to turn on NerdSEQ. So now you see there's triggers being generated up there. I don't know if you can see the lights blinking on all the probability stuff, but eventually that gate opens, and that's what it sounds like. So that's all these notes changing. And you can hear it going from left to right. Like there was the right, and then a moment it'll trigger the left, and then you'll hear the left notes. That's what I wanted. So now if I bring in some of the data bender, the glitching. So now not only is it running a fast arpeggio and then closing its gate, but then Databender takes the bits and still messes with them. And the probability is pretty low, so maybe I should turn that up a bit. Just for the sake of this walkthrough, I'll turn up the probability a bit so you hear some more noise. So now you hear the left channel getting data bent, and you hear the right channel getting data bent. This was so. this was a jaw drop for me because I've not played with Databender too much. But just to hear this turn out the way I was hoping was perfect. So let me throw in my FX Aid reverb. And so this is what this voice kind of sounds like playing in the background of everything else. Mother back in. Again. And there you go. And so this is what I wound up with. The interesting part of it is that I recorded 2 hours of this patch playing, just generating random stuff, but I listened to it for maybe 6 before I recorded it. It just ran all day. It was kind of like my radio. And that almost sums up entirely why I got into modular, why I love it so much, why I have what I have, and I don't know, it's just been such an amazing journey. And knowing I'm still at the beginning of it all is even more exciting because this means that things are just going to get better as I learn more and as I grow more and see the brilliant things that other people do, giving me good ideas to come here and try it. Anyway, with that, thank you for watching. If I post this, thank you for watching and sticking around. And I hope you enjoyed the long-form song, or I hope you enjoyed these patch notes. And I guess we'll just I guess we'll see you in the next one. Take care.